In today's video, we're reading your emails and answering your questions, part 2.
Hey, a huge thank you goes to Shop-Ware for sponsoring this video. In my opinion, they are the absolute best shop management system. Lucas and I both use it at our shops, and we believe it allows us to provide our customers with a unique experience unlike anything on the market right now. If you want to see what we mean, click on the link in the description below and schedule a demo today. And now, on to the video. All right, next one.
Okay.
This one is similar.
Okay.
I have been working for my father in our 2-stall automotive repair shop my entire life.
Okay.
I grew up at the shop, working there after school and on weekends. My father's of the mindset that if it works, it does not need to be updated, changed, or tampered with. He believes it's my way or the highway. I'm a married father with another one on the way, and I have no say in the shop.
Oh, boys, I know all about
and despite several attempts, I don't have any money in it either. My father and I argue a lot most days, unless I am consumed on a diagnosis. I dislike my job and my boss, which is, of course, my father. I have made a general plan for myself in the next 3 years, and I would really like to go over it with someone. I want to make sure I am planning my family's future well, while also not forfeiting my father's retirement by leaving the shop. What do you think?
I've got personal experience in this realm. And, the first that I think of is Cecil and his dad, and the story about Cecil and his dad in the shop, right? The second thing I think is, it's emotional for me to talk about it, but when my little girl was born, I called my mom and dad and said, I am sorry. I didn't know how much you loved me, right? I just didn't know. And I think as a parent, you've got to recognize that there is nothing in the world that you wouldn't do for your child to be successful, right? In the same respect, as a parent, sometimes it can be hard to let go and let them make mistakes, and you have experienced something. Dad has experienced something, and Dad has these experiences, so Dad says, this is what the business needs to do. I know it works this way, right? Just like my dad and my brother, right? They argue over how the business is going to run and who's going to do what and who's going to say what and how it's going to be done. And Dad says, look, I've done it this way for this many years, and I know it works. And my brother says, yeah, but we need to change. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to spend all this money, right? Both ways can work, right? It's not that one's right and one's wrong. It's that there's no communication, and it's hard to talk to Dad, right? It's hard to go to Dad and say, Dad, what does the future look like? Where are we going from here? Because what is Dad's job? Dad's job is to raise the child up and teach him and show him how to do this and do this the right way. It's ingrained. It's that paternal need to be dad and take and lead them and guide them. And so you've got years of experience, and all you want to do is show them to do it your way. And it's hard to let go of doing it your way. It's hard to say, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to do this his way. I'm going to let the new kid in the block come in and do things a way I've never done it, and I've been opposed to doing it forever, right? And part of that is because he's learned from experience. He probably tried to charge too much one time, and that client lit him up. And he said, I don't ever want to feel that way again, right? He's probably, charged somebody for a diag, and the person came in and yelled and said, I can't believe you charged me. The guy down the street did that for free. Mm-hmm. And Dad never learned sales skills. Dad never went and got a training class that taught him how to be an owner. He was a great technician. He's taught his son to be a great technician, but he didn't teach his son to be a business owner. So I think step number one is sit down with Dad and say, look, we argue a lot, but I know that you love me, and I know that I love you, and I want what's best for you. And I know, because I'm a father too, that you want what's best for me. How do we determine where we're going from here? Because I don't want to leave. I'm not really happy where I'm at, but we've got to do something different. Right? Because we can't argue like this because it's damaging our relationship. And I know I don't have that many years left with you. I want to make sure the life that we have together is a good one. Right? I want to have positive memories when I think back about, our time here in the shop. And so I think that is step number one. I think they've got to communicate. And right now it doesn't sound like they're communicating. I think that there is far more potential taking what they've got now and running with it and growing it and getting it to the next level than there ever would be him going out on his own and starting a new thing. I think that
I would highly discourage him trying to start a new thing.
Yeah,
if he's going to buy out another business down the street or in a different town, he's going to buy something out. That's a different conversation.
I have seen so many people go and start a business because they were upset at a family member, and it turned into a deal. It turned into a problem. It turned into a situation because they did it more out of spite than out of common sense. They did it more out of spite, and they did it more of, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go start my own thing. I'm going to show him, right? And what that does is that creates division between him and dad, right? Because now he's dad's competition. That's going to cause a problem there. And dad's like, I've been building this business my entire life. I have worked my tail off to get him here. And he goes and does this, right? How do you think that makes dad feel?
Yeah.
When it could have all been solved with a freaking conversation. And it is not a comfortable conversation. You've heard me say this before. The hardest conversations you'll ever have are the most empowering conversations you'll ever have. When you learn to say the things, you've talked about this, David. You've talked about having to sit down and have those awkward conversations with employees that suck, especially the first time you do them, the second time you do them. But how impactful is it? You tell me. Is it impactful when you sit down and have those awkward, hard conversations? Does it change? And then it's not awkward and hard anymore, is it?
No, it's still awkward and hard, but it's just like
that's just because you're weird like that, right? I'm positive that is just because you're like antisocial and super whatever you are.
They don't get any easier. You still have to have
hard conversations. Hard conversations. The conversation itself doesn't get easier, but the understanding, right? Like I was talking to my staff earlier, and we were talking about how super successful people, many of them have learned to get the dopamine kick instead of from the result of hard work. They get the dopamine kick from the challenge. They get the dopamine kick from the hard work itself, right? People who exercise a lot get the dopamine kick from the exercise, not from losing the weight or being super fit. They get it from the exercise, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so this is the same thing. If we have the hard conversation, it teaches us mentally that hard conversation had a positive result. It made our lives better. It made us more money. It made the shop better. It made things more efficient, whatever it is. And that's my point, is that having that conversation teaches you that the world didn't end. There's a famous football coach, and they asked him, if you keep losing football games, what do you think's going to happen? He said, well, they can't eat me. Right? Like, I mean, come on now, right? What are they going to do? Kill me? No. I mean, it's a hard conversation. And I've had some sucky hard conversations. Some of the ones I thought were going to be the worst weren't bad at all. And some of the ones I didn't think were even going to be a hard conversation were the hardest conversations I've ever had. Yeah. But each one of those I can remember and can tell you the development that I made personally, even if it wasn't about me, the development I made personally from having that hard conversation.
So avoid going out on your trouble. Yeah. So avoid going out on your own if you can.
Yes.
Entirely.
Absolutely.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And have the hard conversation. What if dad doesn't come around? Like at all?
If dad doesn't come around, we have to understand why dad's not coming around. We have to understand what dad's desired outcome is. We talked in the last one about dad's desire, or about desired outcome. What is it we hope to accomplish? We have to understand what is it dad's trying to accomplish. And if dad's unwilling to change and something's wrong with the business,
that's probably the conversation they haven't had yet.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. What's the end game here? What are you trying to get out of this? What do I need to get out of this? And let's try to meet somewhere, find some common ground so we can work together to reach that.
Exactly. And then the next question for me is if we're talking about dad, we've got to say, Dad, look, when I think about me and my dad, and I think about me and my brother, and our relationships with dad, right? Mm-hmm. As my dad gets older and I get older, I realize my dad was a lot smarter than I thought he was. Okay? And I realized that dad made decisions, and dad was telling me, no, don't do that. And he's been good about the fact that he'll sit back and he'll kind of chuckle and just watch. The other day, Scott was putting up a door closer, and I caught myself doing it. You always say you don't want to turn into your dad, right? Dude, I caught myself doing it. Scott's putting up a door closer. And Scott's like putting the screws in the door closer, and the bracket is sticking out to the side of the door that closes. So when the door closes, the bracket's going to hold it open, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, "What you doing?" He said, "I'm putting this door closer up." I was like, "Okay." So I walked into the shop and turned around, watched, waited for him to close it. And a few minutes later, it shuts, and he's like, "Damn it." Like you see it in his face. And I walk into I'm laughing, I walk into my office, and he walked in. He said, "You and your dad are just alike." I said, "Why?" He said, "Your dad walked by me 10 minutes earlier and said, 'Do you know what you're doing?' I said, 'Sure do.' He said, and he just walked off and didn't say a word. Like nobody said to me, I'm putting this up backwards. And like, so I look back and I think, man, like I've become my dad in a lot of ways, right? Like the things that he did. And so he always stood back and like, he let me make mistakes. He never let me get hurt. He let me make mistakes. He let me do stupid things. And I learned from those stupid things, and he would sit back and chuckle about them. Mm-hmm. But if I went to him and asked him to do something that later I figured out was stupid, he said, "No, that's not why you do it. You do this." Right? Now, those father-son conversations can be tough. And sometimes those conversations aren't telling you what you want to hear, so it turns into an argument, so you're not really listening. And dads don't necessarily always explain the right way and go into great detail to explain to you why you shouldn't do it this way. They just know this is the way I've done it, and I know it works. And so when I look at the family business, right, my dad was profitable with the family business, and he did a really good job of managing the family business. Now, my brother wanted to come in and raise prices. What my brother didn't realize is that my dad made as much money as they're making right now with a quarter of the revenue and a quarter of the work, a quarter of the liability. So you think about that for 5 minutes and you say, well, wait a minute. If I can make $200,000 a year and make as much profit as I made with $2 million a year, boys, holy crap. Yeah. Right? Why would I want to do all the work to make $2 million a year if I'm only going to make the same amount of profit?
Yeah.
Right? Why would I put in all that work if I can make this much profit doing this? David Felton is a great example of that. David Felton says, I want to work on what I want to work on. I want to take the time off that I want to take. I want to have a very select set of automobiles that I service. I want to work for a very select set of clients, and I want to make this. And I'm like, whoa, dude! In that many bays, you could do $500,000-$600,000 a year, and you could put a technician. He's like, no, Lucas, you don't understand. I don't want to. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. I'm like, damn, dude, I had never thought about it like that. Right? I'm a go, and you're very much like that. I'm not trying to make $2 million a year. I'm trying to make this so I can pay this, and I can give them this, and I can keep this. And so I think there's a reason dad's not doing what son wants dad to do, or do things the way son thinks they need to be done.
They need to sit down and talk about it, hash that out. So before you do anything, hash that out first, and then don't try to open your own thing. Go buy something.
Don't.
Okay.
Go get a job. If you're going to do that, go get a job and be there to support dad. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. The reason I say go get a job is you'll go get a job, and really quickly you'll figure out that you had it a whole lot better than you thought. Trust me, I have learned that lesson so many times. I have learned that lesson.